Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yourself Freedom Podcast. My name is Alex, and I hope you're doing great. So I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Diana Trinidad. And Diana, aka the Fit Curandera, is a wellness consultant for high achiever. She's the CEO of Boss Babe Fit Club, an exclusive group of active individuals who are ready to boss up their fitness and in their personal lives. Thank you for joining.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for joining. So can you tell us a little bit more about your business, like the Boss Babe Fit Club, and why you decided to take this path of becoming a coach for people?
Sure. So the basis of Boss Babe Fit Club is to get in good shape. A lot of people, for the most part, focus on losing weight and they have trouble with it. But when you think about it in theory, losing weight should be very easy. It's a simple formula. You eat less, you work out more. But if it's so easy, why do people have such a hard time with it? And so the answer to that question is because a lot of it is up here. It's mental. There's a lot of mental roadblocks. There's a lot of trauma that people deal with, or sometimes it's lack of boundaries. So that's where I come in, and that's where my specialty is. So a little bit about myself. I'm a fitness instructor, but I also have a background. I have an MSW, so Master's in Social Work. So I'm trained in different types of therapies. So that's kind of where that comes in. So that's a little bit about my company. And the reason that I wanted to start it is because I have struggled with a lot of the things that my clients struggle with. So it's nice to draw a roadmap for them to kind of guide them out. And some of those things. So for about 2 years, I suffered from really, really debilitating depression where I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work. I lost my job, and it was very bad. It was a very dark time. Struggled with some addiction. And so having gone through that, I used exercise to get me out of that. And it was being consistent in my exercise routine that really helped me get out of that dark time, and not only helped me propel myself out of depression, but it's helped me to be in a place where I have the motivation and I have the will to help other people, because I know what it feels like to be that low, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. And what like at this period when you were like in your dark moment, what happened for you, like to have like this like wow, like that's what I need to do in order like to really uplift my energy? And is there like any specific event that happened that like you had like some clarity and you're like, okay, like that's what I need to do? I need to get out of my bed. I need to exercise. I need to move my body. And yeah. Did you have any specific event that happened?
So with depression, it's interesting how it works, because I think you know in your head what you need to do, but you physically cannot. Like, there's not enough will in you to get out of bed and do the things that you need to do. So I guess the answer to that question would be that it was this long process of going to therapy every day, working with different people to kind of help me out of that depression, because I was so deep where I couldn't carry myself anymore. So I don't know if there was one specific moment, but it was more so a culmination of, the times that I worked with different therapists. And so the reason that I even got in that place, let me give you some context, because that might help. Okay. But after graduate school, I began working for child welfare services. So people know it as CPS. And my role with the government was to investigate child abuse cases. And so obviously that's a very hard field to go in. And there's just a lot of really horrible things that my families that I worked with were dealing with. So it was just a very stressful environment. And it was also the expectation of kind of working yourself to the bone. We had very high caseloads. The people in charge really expected a lot out of us, to the point where a lot of us get burnt out. So that's kind of what happened to me. And I've always been a high achiever. And so I didn't like the idea of not being able to do something, because no matter what, in every other aspect of my life, I've always been able to overcome. So even though my body was giving me signals that something was wrong, I was getting anxiety attacks. I was starting to feel the depression. I didn't want to give up on that job because I didn't want to feel like a failure. So I kept going. I was seeing some therapists at the time, and they prescribed some anxiety medications, so some benzos to deal with the anxiety. And I was just so busy with my day and just so into my work that I would take an anxiety pill, forget that I took another one, and then it kind of grew into an addiction almost. And so by the time I knew it, that's how I was coping with trying to work in this field. So that's what got me to the dark place. So first I sought out help for addiction, because obviously it's like I'm using this to deal with the anxiety of overworking, and benzos are very dangerous. You can't, if you have built up a tolerance for them and you're using them every day, people have died from just trying to stop cold turkey. So I knew that I needed to check myself into a detox center. So that's kind of what I did. And so it started with that. It started with detoxing off everything. I was also drinking excessively to kind of cope with the stress of things. So once I let go of the benzos and the drinking, then it kind of became a battle of dealing with everything that I had pushed inside of me that I wasn't dealing with before. So that was a whole another ball game in itself, and that took a long time to break through some of those things and deal with some emotions that I hadn't dealt with in many years. So yeah, that took a long time, and then it kind of just grew from there. And in this time of trying to get myself to a good place, I knew that working out builds your endorphins. And so it started very, very light, just going on walks every day. And then from there, continued on to weight training. And I felt that every time that I was working out in the gym, those endorphins were pumping. And that was like the natural high that I've always been missing, you know? And so that's kind of where my love of working out started.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, it's like when we have dark moment, like we cannot just like say like from one day to another, like, all right, I'm gonna start to work out for 2 hours every day. It's like a process, and it all starts a lot by like dealing with your like the deep emotions that we're holding into, and like to be able like to free our mind and to have lots of forgiveness for ourselves and for events that happened in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you now like that you're feeling this way, and like you know you're coaching people, and you're in good shape. I suppose that now you know like what freedom means to you. So can you share with us what is the definition of freedom for you?
Freedom for me. So the way that I see freedom is it's your agency that you have over yourself and over your time. So the more choices that you have for what you can do with your time, the more freedom you have. And that's kind of why I decided to be an entrepreneur, because even though it is a lot of work, I like knowing that I have the freedom to change things around in my day and be able to spend time with my family if I need to, or, you know, just do those things that when you're working a regular 9 to 5, you kind of push to the side. And I have friends who have lost parents as their parents age, and they have a lot of regret for not being able to spend time with their parents before them passing, because they were always caught up with work or with other things. So that's one thing that I've been able to take advantage of, you know, being able to spend time with my loved ones. Like that to me is important, and that comes with freedom of time. So that's what freedom means to me, essentially.
Yeah, it's to be able like to have time to spend with your loved one, and also as well to be able like to do what we like, what we love to do, like, and not being caught like in a work that we don't like, and you know, like just being stuck basically in a life that doesn't really fulfill us and doesn't really means anything to us. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's common sense, but that totally makes sense also as well. And
Yeah,
that's why also as well I'm doing my own stuff also as well, and I created my own brand, is to be able to do what I love, to share what I love with people, and to free myself from like doing things that I don't like.
exactly. And I think that's part of the reason why I got so sick, because I knew deep down inside I was going to a job where I wasn't fulfilling my life purpose, and every day was eating away at me. And I was stubborn and didn't listen. So my body was going to force me to listen, you know? So I think that's part of the reason why I got myself into the kind of hole that I did.
And you just said something like about you felt that like you were not following your life purpose. Can you share with us what's your life purpose? What's your soul purpose?
Sure. So that's a very good question, and there's so many layers to it. But I think in short, my life purpose is to be able to help people who maybe don't feel empowered by their circumstance. So people who are disenfranchised, who live in poverty, who suffer racism and things like that. I've always felt compelled to be able to help people like that, because I know what it feels like to be on the other end, and it's not a good feeling. So if there's anything in my power that I can use my privileges for to help other people who maybe didn't have the same opportunities that I did, I think that's part of my soul mission here.
Yeah, and I feel that for the most common sense of being able to helping people like in a situation is when we went through this situation, you know, because we can relate. Like it's easier like to be able to uplift people. For example, like if you want to help people in depression, like it will be easier. Like you can be more empathic, like, you know, empathize with people, because you know what it feels like, you know, like you've been there before. So by having the energy that you have right now, it's easier to help others as well.
Exactly. And I think that's why I wanted to enter into the fitness industry, because I personally have worked with other trainers who have never been overweight in their life. And for me, I struggled with weight issues all through childhood. So I know what it's like to struggle with that. Whereas I think other people that might not have the same experiences don't have the same knowledge to be able to help you in the way that you need. So that's kind of also why I felt motivated and compelled to enter the fitness industry.
Yeah. And do you are you it's a personal question, but are you are you training yourself like every day?
Oh yeah, I work out anywhere from like 5 to 6 days a week. I work out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's become a thing where if I don't work out, it feels weird. Like it's such a habit now that when I have days where I'm, you know, didn't make time for it, then I feel off. Like I don't feel the same. Yeah. It's my medicine for sure. Yes.
Cool. So maybe related to this, like I really believe from my part, like in order like to be our best version, it's important to have like a ritual in the morning to be able like to really take care of ourselves in order to be able to take care of others. So can you share with us what your morning ritual looks like, if you have one?
Yeah. I love that question. So usually as soon as I open my eyes, I think of at least 5 things that I'm grateful for, and I say them in my head. So I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have food to eat today. I'm grateful that I have clean drinking water.
Mm.
So that's the first thing that I do. And then depending on my mood, sometimes I'll go outside and go for like a little walk around my backyard, and I'll meditate under my fig tree. If I have a really busy day and I don't have, I guess, the time for that, then I'll put on positive affirmations. I'll put on like a YouTube video and just say positive affirmations to myself, repeat what the videos are saying. Or I'll put on like a motivational podcast as I'm getting ready and getting ready for the day. So it just depends of the pace of my day. But my favorite morning ritual would probably be to grab my cup of coffee, go outside under my fig tree, and just relax for a little bit before getting into my day.
Mm.
So
Do you train yourself in the morning usually also as well? Do you have any type of movement in the morning also as well?
I do some stretching in the morning, and sometimes I'll do my weight training first thing in the morning, but more often than not, I find that I usually make room for it in the middle of the day because I like going with my friends. It just makes it like, more of a social event than anything. So it's fun. So I usually do it, the workout in the middle of the day, but in the morning I try to do some stretches, just get my body moving, get my body warmed up. I have a dog, so I'll usually take him for a walk as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel that like the most important really, like it's like, of course, like body and mind are working together, but like if your mind is not like in the good space, then like you will not feel like moving your body, So I feel that like if you really like contribute on making your mind in a good space in the morning, like you do meditation and like you're listening positive affirmation and stuff, then like that stimulate the energy for wanting to do some movement also as well. So I believe that's probably the like in between moving and like the mind, like positive affirmation. I feel that like if you don't have the mind in the right space, then you're not gonna want to move. So
Exactly.
it's fun. It's special to think about it because I feel that like both are really important. But if you kind of need to stimulate the mind at first in order to be able to stimulate the physical, and you cannot really stimulate the physical in order to stimulate the mind at first. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot to mention, because this is also part of my morning ritual, but usually I'll put on some kind of like upbeat music. So my background is my parents are Mexican, so it'll usually be something in the Spanish language, like but something like reggaeton or salsa or just something to kind of like get me going, and usually a song that I know well. So I'll start singing it, I'll start dancing, and then even some of my followers on Instagram, I'll post the video of me like starting my day and dancing. So that's also another way that I move my body in the morning. And I can't believe I forgot to mention it because I do that more often than not.
It's all right. You said it. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And also as well, like if you had like, because you're someone that like loves to help people with their health and with like spiritually and emotionally, with all that you've been through, if you had like for example, if you think about someone that has been like in or is in depression right now at the moment and feel that like she needs some words of wisdom in order like to feel uplift. If you had like your one best advice for them, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So depression is tricky because it tricks you into thinking that nobody cares about you, that maybe you're not good enough, that things will always be horrible. And there's this really painstaking feeling that it's never going to get better. But that's a lie. That's a big fat lie. So my message would be that it does get better. It's a temporary feeling, and there's ways and there's strategies for you to be able to push yourself out of that. And once on the other side, it's like you know that what depression was telling you was a lie, because it always gets better. There's always something to live for, and life is so beautiful. Life is amazing. There's so many wonderful moments and just so many wonderful things to appreciate. So my message would be, don't believe the lies of depression. You know, it's beautiful on the other side, and you will get there.
Is there like one tool that someone like they're like not really feeling good with themselves, like something that like can almost like instantly change their way of thinking, like to make it more positive?
So something that helped me is catching a negative thought the second that it enters your head and stopping it in its tracks. So not following through with that thought and thinking something positive instead. So if your thought is, you know, I'm lazy because I'm depressed, stop that thought in its track and think of ways to disprove that thought. So for me, for example, my thought would be, well, no, I'm not lazy, because if I were lazy, then I wouldn't have been able to get my master's degree. I'm not lazy because, you know, I've worked this job. And so I start listing things in my head to disprove those negative thoughts, and then thinking more into a positive framework. So that's one tip that really helped me.
And it's a lot about being aware also as well of our own thoughts, because when we're so busy with life, we kind of not really realize that those thoughts are coming into us. And it's a lot about like being aware of those thoughts, and by being aware, like that means being present with it and say, "Hi, what's going on? Why am I thinking like that? No, that's not me." And it's just like knowing that you can have the awareness to stop yourself from like those thoughts and say, hey, what's going on? Why am I thinking this way? Like, and then after say to, like, you know that you have the choice to say to yourself, oh, no, that's not how I want to think. I'm worthy. And then after to say to yourself, like what your suggestions to say to yourself, I'm worthy because of, and then you say to yourself, like, because I have my master degree, because I help my family to be more positive or stuff like that. And so like it's a lot about like being aware and saying to yourself, oh no, like, that's not what I am. I'm positive because of this and this and this.
And you said something really, really important, and that's the idea of being present. And you're completely right in that a lot of people live their life just in a hurry, looking at what's ahead instead of what's right in front of them. So I think another practice that's really important is being present. And so I teach my clients how to do that, and I teach them about mindfulness, because that's also another wonderful tip that has helped me get out of depression. So you brought up a really good point, and I'm glad you did. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I feel also as well something that you said, like, and I truly believe in this power. I'm practicing it myself every morning. Is when you wake up, just to be grateful, and like to be grateful of like 5 small things. Like you don't need to think about like 50 things. Like you just need to think about small things, like you said, like. I'm grateful that I have tap water that I can go drink right away. You know, I'm grateful to have a hot shower. I'm grateful to have a comfy bed. You know, I'm grateful to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend that I can cuddle and just say I love you. And there's so many things to be grateful for, and then just like starting your day like that, it's just like whoop, your energy is like instantly like uplifted. Just the first few minutes of your day.
Yeah, and it's a very powerful exercise. And the way that our brain is wired is that it's meant to keep us safe and to scan our environment for any dangers. So that's why our brain usually goes to the negatives first, because it's trying to scan for danger. So our mind is almost wired to think negatively and think of the things that you don't have, or the things that you perceive that you need. But that's why it's a challenge, and it's an exercise that you have to practice. It's like a muscle into thinking positive and thinking positive thoughts every single morning, because our brain is wired for almost the opposite. So that's why it's important to practice every day.
Yeah,
the positive affirmations. Yeah.
I really believe in that. And also as well, just jumping to another question, can you tell us a little bit like how do you work with your client? If like someone wants to work with you, like do you have like any ways of like how you work with them?
Yeah, so I usually do coaching calls with my clients. I'm actually running a special now where I'm doing free coaching calls. So if you follow me on Instagram and you reach out to me, the first 10 people that do that get a free coaching call. So that's usually how I am able to connect with my audience. And am I answering your question correctly?
Yeah, well, I mean, like online, but like let's say, like as a personal fitness coach, like do you like you said like you work physically with them, but you work with them mentally also as well. So do you have any procedure? Like, do you like start with meditation with them, and then after you work out, or like how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so the beauty with wellness consulting is that it's tailored to every single individual. So I don't have one standard practice because everyone needs different things. We're all built differently. We have different needs. So my job first is to talk with the client and see what they want to do, see what their goals are, see what their needs are, and then we go from there. Because, you know, people are in different levels in fitness and different levels in life. So it's very much tailored to the person specifically.
Okay. So you can like, so it's good because by being a wellness coach, you can work on both spiritually and physically. You kind of need to work on both in order for them. Like we said like earlier, it's like if you're not like in the right space mentally to be dedicated to work out, then you're not gonna work out. So it's a lot about working both sides of like the mental and the physical part of it.
Exactly. And I very much believe in holistic medicine and treating your mind, your body, your soul as one. Whereas sometimes with Western medicine, you treat one individually. You know, if there's something wrong with your head, you go to the psychologist. If there's something wrong with, you know, like your heart, you go to a heart doctor. But I'm very much of the belief that it's all one, it's all connected. So we have to treat all of them together.
Yeah, totally agree with this also as well. And you, like with the busy life that you're having, like, do you find like any ways like to find your, did you find any ways like to find yourself like in balance and not like overwhelmed by life? Do you have any like ways to make it happen, or you just like you feel that you're in balance in life in a way, and even if like you feel like that you're working all over the place, you still like in balance and because you really love what you're doing?
So it's hard because I've always been addicted to being busy, and it got to a point where it almost became part of my identity, where I'm this person who's a high achiever and who's always doing this and doing that. And it was, I wore it almost as like a badge of honor. But I had to unpack and unravel that because it got me to a point where I got really sick. And so in order to prevent that from happening, I kind of have to be careful because I'll get very excited about my projects and very passionate about it. And, you know, I'll get to a point where I won't sleep for a couple days. So that's when I have to stop myself in my tracks and have a serious talk with myself and say, Diana, like, you know, you need to take care of yourself. You don't want to burn out. We're in the game of longevity. I want to be here for a long time for my clients. So I don't want to burn out just running really fast in a short amount of time. So that's when I stop myself. That's when I go to the beach and kind of just sit to myself, do some meditation. That's when I force myself to just really take some time, take a day off to unwind and then get back into the busyness of things.
So basically like you kind of a high achiever where like you're really passionate about what you're doing in your life and stuff, that you have like some difficulties to stop yourself. So if I understand well, it's kind of like when you get to a point where you're like, oh shit, I'm exhausted, like that you're like, okay, like I need to stop now, like I need to rewire a little bit my energy, like I'll go to the beach for one day, just soak in the sun and the wind, and then after like I'll be all right to go afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I always make nature part of my grounding ritual because I like to connect with the earth. So that's, where the beach comes in, or if I can't make it to the beach, just going outside, sitting in the grass, sitting under a tree, and just really checking in with myself and grounding to nature. That really helps me.
And that really helps me also as well. Yeah, totally. Like that's where we come from. We're coming from. We are nature. Like we are like one with the trees, and like when we're living in busy cities, like I would talk for myself. Like when I'm getting overwhelmed by because I can get overwhelmed also as well by my life. So when I'm going to the nature, just like connected, like hugging a tree, or just like taking like fresh breath air, and just like saying thank you to the fresh oxygen that the trees are giving me, and the grass, and just connected with the roots of our existence, basically. That feels really good. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Diana. Is there like any ways that like people can reach you if they want to know more about you? Like you said you have Instagram, but if they want to they want to reach you to Instagram, or like for a coaching call with you, do you have any website?
Sure. So my Instagram handle is the Fit. So THE and then Fit, FIT, Curandera, CURANDERA. And then I do have a website. It's under construction right now because we're doing a whole rebranding.
Okay.
But if you log into the website, you're able to leave your email to get alerts when we go ahead and relaunch it. And you would be able to find that on bossbabefitclub.com.
Sweet. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And are you pretty active on Instagram?
Oh yeah, I'm very active on there.
Okay.
I'm on there all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, connect with me, send me a message. Let me know if you're interested in a coaching call. I have room for 10 in the next week. So just let me know. I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve.
All right, that sounds good. Anyway, I'm gonna put the link of your Instagram and your website below this video, so people can reach you. And
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much again for jumping on the call with me, and I hope that the people that listen to this will get lots of uplifting energy from it, and as I did with you. So that's been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, maybe we'll jump on the call another time to talk about a different topic.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, take care, and thank you for watching, guys.